The Ultimate Digital Marketing Formula for Law Firms with Annette Choti, episode 323. Are you ready to make your law firm a profit-generating machine that will free up your time and skyrocket your impact? With more than 2 decades of business growth experience and having proven that you can be successful while prioritizing your family and your impact, introducing the Profit with Law podcast. I am your host, the creator of the Firm Differentiator 10X Effect, Moshe Amsel. Well, hello and welcome to another amazing guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I have a guest today who is a marketer for law firms, but also an attorney. So an exciting combination, something that a lot of marketers lack. And it probably lends to her expertise in many ways. And we'll find out about that as we jump into a conversation with her. Our guest, actually, she and I connected a couple of years ago. We had a conversation. I think, if I remember correctly, we met through LinkedIn. I am constantly looking for new connections in various places. One of them is LinkedIn, and we have an automated outreach, but it is an authentic ask to connect with people. We had actually, she reminded me when we started that we had connected 2 years ago. Unfortunately, 2 years have gone by and we didn't stay in touch, but here we are. We're going to record a podcast together and hopefully provide a ton of value to you. So we're going to jump into this marketing conversation and see what she can do to help you with your own marketing journey as you try to grow your law firm. Don't forget, you can just sign up for a free coaching session with one of my coaches at profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. We'd love to support you there. So let me tell you about our guest. Our guest is Annette Choti. She is an attorney of 2 decades, founder of LawQuill, a full-service digital marketing agency for law firms. LawQuill provides website branding, content marketing, social media marketing, and backlink services. Annette is the author of a #1 best-selling digital marketing book for attorneys. It's called Click Magnet, the Ultimate Digital Marketing Guide for Law Firms. By the way, anything that we mentioned in the episode today, including her book, we will link up in the show notes to this episode. So you don't have to remember it. You don't have to take notes and write it down. Just come back to profitwithlaw.com, go into the show notes of this episode. You will see a resources section with links to everything that we mentioned, including Click Magnet, the Ultimate Digital Marketing Guide for Law Firm. She's also the podcast creator and host of Legal Marketing Lounge. Annette demystifies digital marketing for lawyers with a heavy dose of humor, which makes her one of the most sought-after speakers within the legal community. Annette used to perform in the theater and did professional comedy, which is not so different from the legal field, if we are all being honest. So interesting. Lawyers are many lawyers are probably the most serious people that I run into, but you think that it's comedy. So we're going to try to find some humor today in today's episode. Annette, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, and really the honor and the appreciation comes from my end. I have a platform that I get to share, which is great. But the reality is that when you come on as a guest, you're giving an hour of your time, at least, if not a little bit more than that. And you're giving your knowledge, your expertise, and you're giving it willingly. And really, I want to thank you for that, because ultimately what we want to do is we want to help people grow in their journey. Sure, there's a possibility that maybe you get some clients from this. Maybe I get some, maybe I get some exposure through you. There's always the business, the marketing side of it. But the reality is that we're both here for one reason, and that's to help people succeed. So really appreciate you coming here and doing that with me. I want to jump right into just learning a little bit more about you. People, you might be the most sought after speaker in the legal industry, but maybe there are people listening who haven't heard of you. So tell us a little bit about Annette. How'd you end up a lawyer? How'd you end up a marketer for lawyers? Give us a little bit of your story, a little bit of an insight into your life so that we know who we're talking to.
Well, again, thank you for having me on. I actually went to graduate school for theater and film. I did do professional comedy. And then I decided that, I wanted to make a little bit of money. So I decided to go to law school, and I loved it, and ended up working in the legal field for almost 2 decades. And I worked for the federal government. And as you can imagine, it's not an exciting world. And after 2 decades, I felt like, this is enough of this beige cubicle. I have to do something else. I didn't know what to do. And literally digital marketing fell in my lap. I worked for very large digital marketing agencies for several years, learned everything that I could about SEO, learned everything I could about, content, social media, all of the things. And then I realized that a lot of the large digital marketing agencies really didn't understand the law. They didn't understand how content should be presented for potential clients. The content was oftentimes legally inaccurate. And more importantly, oftentimes it did not follow ethics requirements of different states. And so after being in that world for a long period of time, I just decided to start my own agency, which is LawQuill.
I love that. And really, being a business owner is about finding a need in the market and fulfilling that need. And you saw an opportunity and you took it and ran with it, kind of like what I do here at Profit with Law, right? I started an accounting firm, got some law firms as clients, recognized that they struggled with profitability. And I said, hey, there's got to be more that struggle with profitability. Let me go out there and help them solve that. And here we are. So, and I think that lawyers, law firm owners should take a page out of that book, right? You're not just practicing law. You need to choose the practice area, the specific clients you're going to work with, the niche. You need to choose that based on where you see opportunity and where you're passionate about, right? You can't just put your stake in the ground and expect that everybody's just going to come and throw money at you. So you're a marketer. One of your claims to fame is how much writing you've done for law firm owners. So let's dive into that for a moment. I hate writing. So like I love getting behind the microphone and having conversations, and I can talk into a device and write a book, but if I sit down and try to write a piece, it takes me forever. And there's another thing that I do. I'm a paramedic. I do that as a hobby. You might not know it. My listeners should know it because I talk about it all the time. But one of the things as a paramedic I need to do is, besides for going and helping people in their time of need and saving lives and all the things that we do that we don't talk about, where we're not saving lives, we're dealing with drunks and crybabies. But every single interaction I have with a 911 call requires documentation. And even though it's automatic and by rote and we're following the same boilerplate every single time that we do it, even that takes me a long time to write that out. So I struggle with writing. So to hear that there's marketing agencies out there that write your blog posts for you and do it wrong, and you clearly do it right, that's exciting to somebody who doesn't enjoy writing. And I know a lot of attorneys enjoy writing, or at least they're good at it because they have to do lots of writing in their paying job. But talk to me a little bit about, what does this look like when you're writing for somebody else? How do you come up with the content? How detailed is the content that you need to write for them?
Well, I'll say that it's interesting that you bring up a formula or a certain, template that you need to use in your calls, your 911 calls. Lawyers also know that in order to submit something to the court, they have to have it in a certain font, certain spacing, this page intentionally left blank, whatever it is. And I think that one of the issues is that a lot of lawyers don't understand that writing for the interweb, writing for the internet and the Google bots is very different than writing your, musings or, your thought leadership or writing a brief for the court. It's just a different set of standards and formula that you need to write. And unfortunately, a lot of lawyers are very prolific writers, but when they're writing content for their website, they may be writing great content that is legally accurate and following ethical guidelines, but the Google bots don't understand it, because the Google bots are not our robot overlords yet. Okay, so you have to help them understand what this content is. The way they read content is not like a human being does. So not only do you have to have a great topic idea that resonates with people and shows your expertise, your authority, your trustworthiness, and is interesting to people, to potential clients, to keep them on your website, right? Like if you're an estate planning attorney, you don't want to write just about wills and trusts. You want to write about cryptocurrency in your estate plan, or pet trusts, or gun trusts, or special needs trusts, or interesting articles as well to help you get to the top of Google. And you want to write those in a format that the Google bots can also understand. So it's a bit of an art, it's a bit of a science, and unfortunately, a lot of lawyers that are, like I said, prolific writers, they're just not formatting their content correctly so that they're getting the most advantage out of it online.
Now, you bring up a very interesting dynamic that has my mind wandering about which came first, the chicken or the egg here, right? Am I writing a piece of content and then trying to figure out how to spruce it up to fit into Googlebot language, or am I doing a bunch of research about what people are searching for and how it needs to be worded, and what are the important things to have in it and how it should be formatted, and then writing my content around that?
100%, it's the second option. The reason is because when you're writing things for the internet, there is a purpose to that. The purpose is to get more people to your website, to increase your overall domain authority, so that Google starts trusting you more and more, and then places you higher in the Google rankings. Now, it's also important to have content that people want to read. That's how you find keywords. But at the end of the day, there's a juxtaposition between the two and a synergy that you cannot separate. And so since you have to start with one or the other, you always start with what are people looking for. There's no point in having a lot of content that just you think is interesting on your website. You can just write a personal blog on that, right? So what you really want to do if you want to get more dollars into your law firm's bank account is find out what people are searching and then answer their questions in such a way that Google thinks you have the best answer and serves you up on that first page of Google.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept, but then it leads me down this road of, who's doing the writing, who's doing the research, where does the line get drawn between the law firm owner? Like, I know some firm owners who love writing their blog posts, like they love doing a post. They do a post a week, post a month, whatever it is. They sit down, they write it. They're very proud of it. They know that people have come to them and specifically mentioned having read their blog post. But I also know that there's no way that they're doing this kind of research before they're writing their blog post, right? And even learning how to do that research, how do I find out what are people searching for, and what, and how do I know that I'm right, and what's the, and then from there, like what is the specific words and string of words I need to have, and how many times do I need to have it? All those rules. The average firm owner is not gonna know that, right? So where should the law firm owner be looking at, okay, this I can do, this I need to have someone else do. How do I make that collaboration? Like, talk to me more about the actual, like, ABC. This is how we're going to execute on this.
Well, here's the truth. What I'm doing is not brain surgery. People can learn it. I mean, I learned it. It's just a matter of whether or not a law firm owner wants to take the time and effort to actually learn everything that there is to learn about search engine optimization, which is SEO. So if you've got a small solo law firm out there and, frankly, they have more time than money, then what they should do is, start researching SEO, get a book or books, plural, start researching on the internet about how to find topics, how to find keywords, how to incorporate those keywords, how to format it correctly, how to do outgoing links, how to do meta descriptions, how to do all of that stuff, and then basically bootstrap until they can afford to hire someone that they authentically believe can accurately represent the law and provide SEO services for them. So at some point, a lawyer, just like, right, lawyers don't want to do their own taxes either, right? I mean, could they do their own taxes and could they do their own finances? I mean, I guess, but at some point you just realize I've got to outsource the things that are not in my zone of genius. I mean, I think you can speak to that as well as a person who provides services to lawyers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do harp on this a lot with my clients and here on the podcast. When we talk about this concept of who, not how, you only have so much capacity to do so many things, right? And the reality is that when you spend your time on one, you're not spending your time on another. Like even somebody who's just starting out has all the time in the world because their phone's not ringing off the hook. I don't think they should be learning SEO. I don't think they should be spending their time doing that unless it makes them tick, unless they're excited about it for whatever reason. And I mean, clearly you're excited about it, right? So there are some people who would be excited about it. I wouldn't, right? Although I want to be knowledgeable enough to sound like I know what I'm talking about behind this microphone, but I actually don't want to try to figure out what blog post I need to write for my own business. I want someone else to do that for me. So I think it's really important to differentiate that. So the level of understanding I want to glean from this interview, as a listener, I need to set my bar, right? Like I want to know enough to know what I need to know to have a good conversation with a marketer who's going to now implement this for me, right? So I need to know, am I a blog post writer? And I need somebody to fill in the gaps to tell me, here's the topic you need to write a blog post on. And here's some keywords that you want to make sure you have in there. And then I'll tweak it from there. Or am I not even the blog post writer? Am I like Moshe, who hates writing, and I'm just going to hand that off to somebody else? Like even right now, we have a company that turns every single one of our podcast episodes into a blog post. I think that we have room for improvement on what we do with that to make it more SEO friendly. But that would cost more because we would have a different level provider. And maybe that's not where we decide to put our budgetary money. So I think really where I want to go with this question for you is, how does somebody navigate this marketing conversation, this question of like, when is the right time to be spending money and focusing on SEO? If I choose not to learn it and I want to invest in it, it's probably going to cost me. So, at what stage am I ready for that? And is there something that I should be doing before I start focusing on SEO?
So I just gave a talk at the Missouri Bar Conference last week. It was a CLE and it was on the 5 ways to grow online. And what I said in that is what I say everywhere on my podcast, on my book, on my website, everywhere, which is that there is a specific recipe and ingredients you need to do in an exact order in order to grow online. And the thing is that it doesn't just work for law firms, right? It works for any small business. So I didn't create the recipe. I'm just telling you what digital marketers agree on. And here is the recipe in the order that you need to do it. And so wherever your listener finds him or herself, that's where they need to start. So the very first thing before you do absolutely anything else is to figure out your own branding. Who are you? How are you different than all the other competitors out there? There are 47,000 law firms in the United States, and you own one. So you want your law firm to be different. Now, that comes with a series of questions. Are you a kinder, gentler family law attorney? Are you an estate planning attorney that's focusing on intergenerational wealth? Whatever it is that makes you different. So after you have branding, then you need to have your own virtual real estate on the internet, which is a website. And your website needs to be WordPress. It should not be Wix or Squarespace, because you actually don't own your own content on Wix or Squarespace. So you need to develop a website and develop your own real estate that you can constantly have people coming back to. After you have a brand, after you have a website, then you need to start creating content on your website. The most common form of content is written content because the Google bots love it, but Google bots love video too, and they love podcasts. So whatever content you're going to do, I really feel like you need to start with either written content or like a podcast that becomes written content. And then you have your website being built out consistently so the Google bots like you. So after you have branding, website, and content, then you can go to social media, because then you have something to say on social media, and then you have something to direct traffic back to your website. You also, once you create content, as I'm sure you know, you can then send that to an email list, right? You can talk about it in other conversations with people organically. When you finally have great content on your own website, you are then taking people off of social media and their cat videos and memes and whatever they're looking at, and getting on your real estate and hopefully staying a while and remembering you. And then finally, after you do all of that, there's the backlink strategy, which is a bit, it's kind of like the AP English class. That's a little bit of a higher level. But the problem is, I feel like a lot, and you can speak to this as well, but a lot of attorneys feel overwhelmed. They don't know where to start. They're like, wait, do I do TikTok? Do I do Clubhouse? What am I supposed to do first? And so when you follow this strategy, it really is building a very sturdy foundation and building for your entire digital marketing strategy.
Yeah, and you make a good point. Like there's so many different things vying for our attention, and it's very easy to be jumping from thing to thing. Like how many of us have thought that we needed to focus on Facebook, and then we need to focus on Instagram, and then we need to focus on like you said, TikTok, Clubhouse. And there's always another platform, there's another medium, there's another place that we should be focusing our attention. And the reality is that when you're focusing on those things, you're not focusing on running your firm. You're not focusing on the legal work. You're not focusing on growing your team. So should that be a focus of yours? And this is a constant struggle in this conversation, is like, do you have a marketer you're working with that will handle that stuff for you? Should you have a social media marketing agency that's doing your social media for you? Should you be batching your video recording into like 2 days of the year and have all of that being chopped up into bite-sized pieces that could get released throughout the year? And you're not sitting there trying to figure out in the morning, oh, what am I going to say on Instagram today? So those are, like really that's the conversation that we need to be having. And my question for you, Annette, author of Click Magnet and host of the podcast on legal marketing, there's obviously different stages of growth, different layers of what you can afford, and but where do you think somebody should focus first? I know that you gave those five those 5 steps, right? They're very specific about the website and things like that. Like I take a step even further back than that. Like I have a video out there that we run as an ad that says you don't need a website to be a successful lawyer, right? Like there's a step before that where you can just go and connect with a bunch of professionals and create some referral sources and have some business coming in before you even start focusing on the digital marketing, the thing that to build your brand presence. That's an early stage thing, but some people skimp on that. And you know what? Even if you're spending $5,000 a month on marketing, you may not have figured that out, and you should go back and do it, because that could produce a ton of results for you. So what's the growth pattern for you, like from infant to adulthood when it comes to a law firm? Like how should somebody navigate the marketing trajectory of their firm?
It's interesting. The conference I was just at, there were a lot of older lawyers that were there, and they all said, I don't need what you do because I've had referrals for decades. And I said, there's nothing that can beat solid, consistent referrals. The problem is that younger lawyers or, sort of mid-season lawyers don't have that kind of decades of referrals in their Rolodex, right? So they have to do something different. But obviously at the very beginning, people do business with people at the end of the day. I think that's the reason that LinkedIn is kind of the happy place for a lot of people, because it's a way for us to network and be together. Now that the pandemic is slowing down, I don't know if it's over, but it's slower. People are getting back together, and that's really important. I think that's the beginning stage, because first of all, it's free. And second of all, it's really getting your name out into the community. And then at that point, they say the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So whatever you're going to do with digital marketing, the sooner you start, the better, because it takes so long. So some digital marketing agencies hold people hostage and hold law firms hostage in like a year-long contract. Like, I don't do that, but I understand kind of why they do it, because it takes time for this stuff to work. Now, I don't do that because I just feel like we're all adults here in the room, and I can just explain that to someone and hopefully they'll understand. But I really feel like at some point, once you're bootstrapping your whatever it is, your branding or your website or whatever it is, at some point when you have enough cases where you're making money, then that's really where you need to be lawyering, right? You need to go be a lawyer and let everyone else do the other things for you. And one of the reasons I wrote my book actually is because it has in there ways to hold digital marketing agencies to account. So even if someone never hired me, whoever they do hire, they will have sort of a guidebook to say, what am I getting for my digital marketing dollars here? Is it valuable? Can I trust them? So it was a way for me to sort of pull back the curtain from the Wizard of Oz and say, there's nothing mystical here. There's a science and an art and an algorithm that we are all following. And there's no reason why a law firm can't at least learn about that so that they can make better decisions with their digital marketing dollars.
So speaking of drawing the curtains back and monitoring certain things, is there a list of key performance indicators or KPIs that you as a marketer believe that your clients need to have and that you provide to them on a regular basis? And if yes, what are those?
So organic marketing is very different than paid advertising. A lot of times they call organic marketing dirty marketing because it's really hard to get the same types of KPIs that you do with paid advertising, where everything is you can't do anything without a KPI. It's interesting because at the end of my little intake form, when people schedule an appointment with me, at the very bottom, it says, how did you hear about LawQuill? And just for the record, I do no paid advertising, zero. I do 100% organic. So I practice what I preach. Inevitably, people say, I don't know, you're just kind of everywhere. Or I don't know, I think it might have been, I don't know, Facebook maybe, I'm not sure. And that's exactly what I want. I want to be everywhere so that they can't remember whether they heard my podcast first or got my book, or I was just in a conversation with them on LinkedIn. So at the end of the day, it's very difficult to get KPIs with organic marketing, but I know that's kind of a non-answer. So my best answer for you is what we look at is how keywords are ranking, the keywords that we are writing for, how those start ranking over time. We usually give it about 6 months, and then we start looking at how those keywords are ranking. We look at the overall domain authority score. That's a DA score, and everyone listening can just look up their own DA score for free. There's a ton of different websites where you can do that. And then we also—
Can you give me one website so that our listeners have where to go to look up their domain authority?
I think they can look it up on Ahrefs. It's Ahref. I think you can look it up also on Moz.com. I think that those are a couple of them. Of course, there's a lot of other, but literally, if you just put into Google like DA score checker or something like that, you'll be able to find several of them. And then what we also look at is the organic traffic that is happening to a website. And inevitably, once we start putting content on a website once or twice a week, and I'm talking 1,000 words or more, we're not talking about 350 to 7, like those days are gone. And if anyone tells you that you only need like a 500-word blog, my response to that is go and look at what your competitors are doing. And whatever they're doing, you should be doing at least that or more to win, because Google will, otherwise you're just wasting your money. So when we start putting consistent, valuable, interesting content that is keyword and SEO'd correctly, what we notice is that not only do those individual keywords start ranking, then Google starts trusting that website. The DA score starts going up, and then we can rank for harder keywords. That's a bit, more of a, science to the algorithm. But we also look at the organic traffic. So if someone is only having 100 views per month, and then 6 months later, they're having 2,000 or 3,000 views a month, then and they haven't done anything but hire us or another digital marketer or whatever it is, or they're doing it themselves, then they can know that their efforts towards content marketing and social media, getting people to their website, to that content is working. So those are the KPIs that we look at the most. But unfortunately, we don't have those really crisp numbers that paid advertising does.
Yeah, I think that we can, at least we can see how many website visitors we're getting and watch that number increase, right? Like, for example, the podcast, right? There's no real way to measure the podcast success other than are we getting clients from it, which again, it's a moving target, right? We don't know if they came from the podcast or if they listened to the podcast after they heard about us, right? So what we do is we monitor podcast downloads. Like our podcast is hosted somewhere. So we have insight into how many downloads we're getting, and we monitor downloads per episode, the frequency of the trajectory of downloads. And we're always looking for our average downloads per episode to be increasing month over month, quarter over quarter.
But
and
to
that's
be honest, you are everywhere as well, right? Like everywhere I go on the interweb, you are there. You've got your podcast, you've got your LinkedIn, you're always speaking somewhere, right? I mean, I'm not stalking you. I'm just saying the truth is that you show up in my social media feeds, in conversations that I'm having with other people. And so how do you put a KPI on that? But at the same time, how valuable is that? That's just the same as getting referrals, a word of mouth referral. You're just always top of mind, right? So there might not be a KPI attached to that, but I don't know. It just seems like it's almost even more valuable.
Yeah. At the same time, I do not have a focus on SEO here. I don't hire a marketing agency. Maybe I should for Profit with Law, right? But I just went and I checked my domain authority, and I have a domain rating of 24, which sounds to me like it's very low, which means that there's a lot of room for improvement that we have here at Profit with Law, where if I'm already everywhere and now I start to focus on increasing that ranking, which I think that ranking is being driven by links that are coming in from other places. I mean, I saw that there's 120 linking websites to my website, and there's 2,144 backlinks. And to me, that sounds like a lot. Like, I have no idea. Like, how did I get 120 different sites to link to me? But I guess over time, that stuff all builds on itself, and without and I think that's really what Google is looking for, is that this is naturally happening, and you're in the way that you're working, which is why they use that for ranking. But the reality is that if you focus on it and you ask people, hey, can you feature this? Can you link to this article? There could be, you can do a much better job.
Well, and actually, I'll even say this as an attorney, my answer to everything is it depends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not so sure that 24 is that low of a score. And here's why. What are other people that are doing exactly what you are doing? What is their domain authority score? Because it's all relative. If you're going to put yourself up against Amazon, well, then yeah, that's a low domain authority score. If you're going to put yourself up against someone who just started a bakery somewhere that just opened a website, well, then you're doing fantastic. So you need to really look at who else is doing exactly what you're doing and look at their domain authority scores, because you might just be crushing it. Again, the whole thing with SEO and organic marketing, it is a science with the algorithm, but it's also a bit of an art as well.
Yeah, and I think you make a really good point there. So by the way, folks, we're gonna the Ahrefs website, we'll link that up in the show notes. It's ahrefs.com/website -authority -checker, but we'll link that up in the show notes. So you go to profitwithlaw.com, go to this episode, we'll have a resources section, everything is there. But you make a really good point. Like, what does the score mean? It just gives me like, oh, generally it's 0 to 100, and the higher the number, the better. But how do you compare to and I'm not a believer in competition, right? But to the people that are doing the same thing as you, And I literally just went and I just checked 2 other websites that of people who do very similar things to what I do. And one of them is a 14, the other is a 10. So you make a really good point. Like, yeah, my 24 looks kick ass when it comes to
Well, and
comparing
also
it to those two.
what that also see, I'm glad that I'm glad that worked out for me, with live timing there. But the other thing is that as you grow, what that tells a marketer, a good marketer, is that you can rank for more difficult keywords, more keywords that are searched more often than others. So for the example I usually give is, if you are a new criminal attorney in New York, you are never going to rank out of the gate for New York City criminal defense attorney. Like, you're not going to rank for that, but you might rank for, can you videotape a police officer during a stop? Like something that's a little bit more narrow and niche. And then over time, you're just growing. But a 24 for you means that you can rank for much more difficult keywords. Google already trusts you. So if you try for those keywords, they will inherently put you above your competitors.
Very, very interesting stuff. Okay, so we're almost out of time, and I think we just like touched the tip of the iceberg. Like, there's so much more here, and folks, you cover this in your book, I presume. So go pick up the book, Click Magnet. We're going to link that up again in the show notes, and maybe tune into Annette's podcast and pay attention to what she's sharing there. But really, I mean, my job here in interviewing you is to try to ask the questions that I think that my listeners are asking when they're hearing this conversation. And I think the biggest question that they're going to be asking at this stage is, there's a lot of confusion about where to focus my efforts in marketing. And wherever I am in my journey, I've learned something on this episode, and I want to know, what's the next steps? Like, what should I do as a business owner to take the next steps in making this a priority for me? Like, I'll just put myself in their shoes. I know my domain authority is a 24 now. I know that it's doing a little bit better than some other people out there that I might say, okay, they're in the same space as me, but I want to widen the gap. I want to make that, I want to be a 50 and they're a 10, right? Like, I want to make sure that there's just nobody else but me showing up. How do I do that? I don't want to have to figure out keywords. I don't want to have to learn that. I don't want to have anything to do with that. Right.
If I'm using you as an example, you've already got a great brand and you've already got a website. So I'd say, okay, anybody that tells you that you need those things, just don't listen to them. You've got a great brand. You've got a great website. You don't need anybody to redo those. Unfortunately, a lot of digital marketing agencies are not like mine. They're not a la carte. They force you into these packages, pre-made packages. So make sure that whenever you're shopping around for digital market, if that's where you're at, that you only get the services that you actually need. So in your case, if you've got a great brand, and you do, and if you've got a great website, and you do, then at that point, you need to start saying, okay, I need to start showcasing content on my website consistently that is keyworded and all of the things, at least weekly. And then also simultaneously, along with that, my best practice is to start a social media strategy to then get people off of LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, wherever they are, onto your website. That is really where we can really move the needle and get people to be seen. It's just a very effective way to get people to the top of Google.
Okay. So what kind of budget should somebody expect to spend and I'm not asking you to price your services, but a business owner who's not currently focusing on SEO, they're going to go out and get themselves a marketing agency to help them with this process. And I know that there's a lot of variation in what can be available. So let me just give you some caveats. Okay. They're not writing their own content. They want the marketing agency to write the content for them. They're going to do one blog post a month. They want to rank. They want to show up in Google for their area of expertise in their geographic area, right? That's basically what they want. So what should somebody like that expect to budget?
They need to be doing one blog post a week, not a month. With one a month, they won't get any. That I literally tell people, please just save your money.
Okay.
and buy something else at Target that you like, because one blog post a month will not move the needle. There are agencies out there that will do that. And of course they will, they'll take your money, right? But that truly, we have tried it. We've tried 1 a month, we've tried 2 a month, and it does not move the needle until you get to 4 a month, really. Not really. I mean, 2 a month could work if you were very aggressive on social media.
Okay.
So I will tell you that I won't give my prices on here, but all of my prices are transparent. You can go to my website and see every price for every service that I offer. That was another huge hurdle that I felt like a lot of lawyers feel with digital marketing agencies, that everything is shrouded in mystery, right? Like the prices, the packages, what they're actually doing once you give them your money, like all of that is just shrouded. And so I just sort of decloak everything. And I honestly believe, and I mean, I guess I can just give my prices if you want me to, but I really feel like if you are getting great content, you should be spending about $1,000 for 4 blog posts a month. And those should be 1,000 words or more. They should be proof of that they're not plagiarized at the bottom. You should be getting keywords. You should be knowing what keywords they are trying to rank for. That should be transparent as well. Somewhere between $1,000 and $1,500 for 4 blog posts, I think is reasonable. And then obviously social media marketing is a little bit more than that. And it depends obviously on how often you want someone to post on social media for you, or how many platforms. A lot of times what we do with law firms, because they are very interested in being a thought leader, is we do a package where we only post 3 times a week for them. And then the other 2 days, they actually personalize their own content, because they actually really like putting content out on LinkedIn. So we do the heavy lifting by getting people back to their website and everything. And then they get to do their thought leadership, or talk about what happened to them during the week, or give an anecdotal story that makes them more personable to their LinkedIn audience. So I hope that helps, but obviously a lot of digital marketing agencies will not talk about their prices until you actually get on a call with them. But everything that we do, all of my prices are on my website.
Yeah, no, I love your transparency and honesty. And folks, you can go and check that out at, what's the website?
It's lawquill.com. So it's law, L-A-W, and then quill, like an old quill pen, lawquill.com.
Lawquill.com. We'll link that up in the show notes, of course. And you can check out the pricing that Annette has in for her clients. And even if you're not considering using LawQuill, you can at least get an idea of what that should cost if you were to go to another marketing agency, and make sure that you're not being taken for a ride. And clearly, I teach my coaching clients not to look at what the competition is charging when they set their prices. So it's possible that you can go to somebody who will be significantly more expensive, but make sure that they're worth that premium. And make sure that they are light years better than Annette is, even though she's probably the best out there, right? So
yeah, that's actually what I talk about in my book. I'm like, if you're getting content from someone, they should be giving you the keyword for every article every time. They should be telling you how often that's searched. There just should be a demystification. You shouldn't be frustrated or curious or you just shouldn't have it. If you're paying that much to a digital marketing agency, they should be explaining and educating, frankly, exactly where your digital marketing dollars are going, and how they're going to help you get dollars into your law firm's bank account.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to wrap up the episode, and what I do at the tail end of the episode is I do 2 things. One, we kind of just did by giving your website out, but my question to you is, number 1, what is one pointer or tip that you want to leave our audience with? Like, if you had to give them one piece of advice before you left, what would that be? And the second is how do they get in touch with you? How do they take the next step with you? Where would you like to point them if they want to continue the journey with Annette?
Well, to answer the first question, I think that the best thing that every one of your listeners can do is really take time out to think seriously about where they are in their digital marketing journey, to figure out what their next step is. And I think that taking time to figure out where they are will help them realize what their next step should truly be. And, take time to look at resources, not just my book, but what is online, what experts are saying, and then figure out where you are and where you want to be, and then create a digital marketing strategy that is the bridge from where you are now to there. And that's different, right, for every person. And then how you get a hold of me. Well, I'm on LinkedIn. Like I said earlier, that's how we met. And it's just Annette Choti, Choti. You can find me on my website, which is Lawquill, LAWQUILL.com. I practice what I preach. I have over 125 articles on my website. So there's a lot there for lawyers to look at and get information. And then I host the podcast Legal Marketing Lounge. And then there's my book.
Awesome. Folks, check out our podcast, read the book, download it on Amazon, ship it to your home, whatever it is. Dive into all things Annette. We really appreciate you joining us. We appreciate your time, energy, knowledge, and expertise that you brought with you today. And this is another great episode here that is in the bag. I mean, like we just killed it. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, there's over 300 episodes for you to go back and binge on. But more importantly, we bring you an amazing new guest every single week. And we'd love it if you join us for the next one. So make sure to hit the subscribe button in your podcast player so you get notified when we release that. Our guest episodes are released every Thursday morning. So you have what to look forward to on Thursday. Tuesdays, I usually release a solo episode. Been a little off my game lately, so there might be some replays in there instead of me releasing some new content, but don't worry, I'll be back. But we definitely continue to have amazing guests for you, including the one that we just had today, Annette, and she's just been amazing. So if you agree, you believe that this was a great show, you can also just leave us a rating and review in your podcast player. Doing so really helps us grow our listener base, because people go and check it out. They do a search, they're trying to find something to listen to. The first thing they do is they look at the ratings and reviews. Is this a show that people are paying attention to? Does this have good content? Should I actually waste my time pressing play on this particular podcast? So we'd appreciate it if you took the time to leave us a rating and review. And the last thing that I'm going to share with you is that we coach law firm owners in their business growth. We have a elite lawyers coaching program. It's a year-long program where we will help you double your revenue and 10x your profit. And if you want those kind of results, if you would like to learn more about that, you can start off with a free coaching call with one of our coaches. It's absolutely no strings attached. You can come and get a ton of value from us in that session. And at the end, you can decide if you want to consider joining our program or not. So don't delay. Go today to profitwithlaw.com/free coaching, profitwithlaw.com/free coaching. Join our coaches for a free coaching session. Get your mind blown. Figure out what's getting in your way, and start moving in the right direction, the best trajectory to the firm of your dreams. And hopefully we can help you and support you along the way for an entire year. But if not, you still have all of our free resources, including this podcast, to come back and keep you on track and keep you marching in the right direction for your law firm growth. Until next week, take care. That's it for this week's episode of Profit with Law. If you have enjoyed the show, please consider sharing it with at least one person. Imagine how many lives we can change if we each shared this episode. Another way to share the episode is on social media. We appreciate your support and look forward to you joining us again next week.